Imagine waking up one morning to find your entire city empty. 9,000 people gone, no bodies, no signs of struggle. Just silence. Breakfast plates still on tables. Cars parked perfectly in driveways. Doors left wide open. But every single person vanished. This isn't a horror movie. This actually happened on an American island in Alaska. And here's the disturbing part. The government doesn't want you to know about it. When rescue teams finally arrived, they found something that made their blood run cold. Something so unexplainable that officials sealed all records and made it illegal to visit the island. Today, I'm going to tell you what really happened on Anjikuni, the island that lost 9,000 people in a single night, and why decades later nobody is allowed to talk about it. Act 1, The Discovery, 045-230. Let me take you back to November 1930. A fur trapper named Joe Labelle is traveling through the remote wilderness of northern Canada, near the Alaskan border. Joe has been traveling this route for years. He knows every village, every settlement, and tonight he's heading toward Anjikuni, a thriving Inuit fishing village with a population of around 2,000 people. But something's wrong. As Joe approaches the village, he notices the silence first. No dogs barking, no children playing, no smoke rising from the chimneys, and this is the middle of winter in the Arctic. He enters the village expecting to find people preparing dinner, families gathered around fires. Instead, he finds something impossible. The village is completely abandoned. But here's what makes it terrifying: nothing is missing. Food is still cooking over fires that have long since gone cold. Rifles, precious survival tools in the Arctic, are still leaning against walls. No Inuit would ever abandon their rifle. Joe walks from house to house. In one home, he finds a half-finished meal on the table. In another, children's toys scattered on the floor, as if the kids had just been playing minutes before. He finds a woman sewing, needles still in the fabric, thread hanging loose. Someone had been in the middle of sewing when... What? What could make someone drop everything and leave? The boats are still tied at the docks. The sled dogs, and this is the part that haunts Joe for the rest of his life, the sled dogs are all dead. Starved to death. Still chained up. Nobody had released them. Nobody had fed them. Joe realizes with growing horror, these people didn't leave voluntarily. Something took them. He runs to the nearest telegraph office 50 miles away and sends an emergency message to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The investigation. Within days, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police arrive with a full investigation team. What they find defies explanation. The entire village of Anjikuni, approximately 1,000 people, has vanished without a trace. But the investigation reveals something even more disturbing. Anjikuni wasn't the only village. Over the following weeks, reports come flooding in from across northern Canada and Alaska. 7 more villages, all abandoned. Same pattern, no bodies, no signs of struggle. Everything left behind. When investigators total up the missing, 9,000 people have disappeared. 9,000. The RCMP begins interviewing witnesses from surrounding areas. What they hear sends chills down their spines. A trapper named Armand Laurent reports that 2 months before the disappearance, he saw strange lights in the sky over Anjikuni. Not the northern lights, he'd seen those his whole life. These were different. Cylindrical objects glowing, moving in formation. A pilot named Gustav Klein reports that in early November, he flew over the region and saw a massive dark object hovering over one of the villages. When he circled back for a second look, it was gone. Several indigenous elders from neighboring tribes report the same thing. For weeks before the disappearances, there had been a strange humming sound at night. So low you felt it more than heard it. It made people's teeth ache, made dogs howl. Then suddenly one night, silence. The investigators map out the disappearances. All 9 villages form a perfect circle, roughly 200 miles in diameter. At the center of that circle, a massive deep lake called Lake Anjikuni. The RCMP sends divers into the lake. They find something that makes them immediately terminate the investigation. The official report is sealed, marked classified. When journalists try to investigate, they're told the story is exaggerated or folklore. But Joe Labelle, the original fur trapper, goes to his grave swearing every word is true. And here's the thing. Census records from that era support his story. Between 1930 and 1931, the population of several Arctic villages drops to 0 in official Canadian records. So what happened to those 9,000 people? Act 3, The Theories. Over the decades, researchers have proposed several theories. Let's examine each one. Theory 1. Mass migration. Some skeptics argue the villagers simply relocated due to harsh conditions or depleted food sources, but this doesn't explain the abandoned supplies. Inuit people don't leave behind rifles, food, and boats when they migrate. These are survival essentials. Plus, where did they go? Not a single person from any of these villages ever turned up in other settlements. Theory 2. Disease outbreak. Perhaps a plague swept through, killing everyone so quickly they couldn't even bury the dead. But investigators found no bodies, not one. And why would you leave food cooking and doors open if you were dying of disease? People sick enough to die don't set the table for dinner and then vanish. Theory 3. Government experiment. This is where it gets dark. Some researchers believe the Canadian or US government was conducting secret experiments in the Arctic during the 1930s. There are documented cases of governments relocating indigenous populations for military testing. What if these villages were forcibly evacuated for some classified Cold War-era project? But in 1930, we weren't yet in the Cold War. And why make it look like a mystery? Why not just evacuate people officially? Theory 4. Natural disaster. Could an avalanche or sudden flooding have swept everyone away simultaneously? The problem? The geography doesn't support this. These villages were spread across 200 miles of varied terrain. No natural disaster could affect all 9 villages the same way at the same time. Theory 5. Mass abduction. This is the theory that refuses to die. And it's the one that got the investigation sealed. The strange lights in the sky, the hovering objects, the humming sound, the fact that people vanished mid-activity as if interrupted, the perfectly circular pattern of affected villages. When divers went into Lake Anjikuni, they reported finding geometric patterns carved into the lake bed, patterns that appeared recent, patterns that matched no known human or natural formation. That's when the Canadian government shut everything down. Act 4. The cover-up. Here's what we know for certain about the official response. In 1931, all records relating to the Anjikuni disappearances were classified under the Canadian Official Secrets Act. Journalists who tried to investigate were threatened with prosecution. The villages themselves were declared off-limits. Signs were posted warning of contamination and dangerous conditions, but contamination from what? The government never specified. By the 1950s, the Canadian military had established a research station near Lake Anjikuni. It remains operational today. What are they researching? The official explanation is Arctic climate studies. But here's what's strange. In 1989, a researcher named Dr. Thomas Engelhardt obtained partial declassified documents through a Freedom of Information request. What he found was bizarre. The documents referred to something called the Anjikuni event and mentioned non-conventional disappearance phenomena. There were references to atmospheric anomalies and unidentified aerial reconnaissance. One document dated 1932 contains this sentence: recommend permanent suspension of civilian access to affected radius. Phenomena may recur. Phenomena may recur. What phenomena? Dr. Engelhardt tried to obtain more documents. His request was denied. When he pushed harder, threatening to go public with what he'd found, he received a visit from government officials. They told him that pursuing this research would be unwise for his career. He dropped the investigation. In 1995, a documentary crew tried to visit the original Anjikuni village site. They were turned back by military personnel who claimed the area was closed for environmental protection. When the crew asked what they were protecting, they were told to leave immediately. The few researchers who have managed to visit the region report something eerie. The sites where the villages once stood are completely empty, not just of people, of everything. Buildings gone, graves gone. It's as if someone erased all evidence that these communities ever existed. Act 5. Similar cases. The Anjikuni disappearances aren't unique. There are similar cases throughout North American history that follow the same pattern. In 1587, the Roanoke colony in Virginia, 117 people vanished. The only clue, the word Croatoan carved into a tree. No bodies ever found. In 1900, 3 lighthouse keepers vanished from the Flannan Isles. Meal on the table, chairs knocked over, clocks stopped, gone. In 1945, Flight 19, 5 military aircraft with 14 crew members disappeared over the Bermuda Triangle. No wreckage, no distress signal, never seen again. In 1969, the entire crew of a fishing vessel called the SS Poet vanished off the Alaskan coast. The ship was found floating, engine running, food still warm in the galley, all 34 crew members gone. The pattern repeats, people vanish mid-activity, leaving everything behind, no bodies, no explanation. And often, strange lights in the sky reported shortly before. Are these isolated incidents, or are they connected? Some researchers believe there are zones in North America, areas where the barrier between our world and something else is thinner. Places where people don't just disappear, they're taken. The Canadian Arctic, the Bermuda Triangle, the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts, Nevada's Area 51 region, all known for unexplained disappearances and UAP sightings. Is the government protecting us from something, or hiding something from us? Today, if you try to research the Anjikuni disappearances, you'll find very little official information. Most sources call it folklore, or an urban legend, but Joe Labelle's testimony is documented. The RCMP investigation is real, even if the files are sealed. The census records show the population drops. 9,000 people don't just vanish because of a story. Somewhere in the Arctic, there are 9 villages that once held thriving communities. Today they're empty, forbidden, erased from most maps. The Canadian government knows what happened. They've known for almost a century, and they've decided you don't need to know. Maybe they're protecting us. Maybe they're protecting themselves. Or maybe, and this is what keeps researchers up at night, maybe they're protecting whatever took those 1,000 people from coming back for more. The Anjikuni event remains one of North America's greatest mysteries. 9,000 people gone in a single night, and nobody talks about it. Now you know why. End screen. What do you think happened to those 9,000 people? Government cover-up? Natural disaster? Or something we can't explain? Let me know in the comments. If you want more forgotten mysteries like this, subscribe now. These are the stories they don't want you to know.